As it rushed forward, Heracles raised his club. With a loud crack he brought it down on the lion's head. Then the hero gaped at what he saw. The club had shattered into 100 pieces. But the blow managed to stun the lion for a brief moment. In that moment, Heracles realized what the prince hadn't told him. This lion could not be hurt by weapons. The question is, what will happen next? Now what? What will he do? You should make a comment on the side here. With a roar as loud as the lion's, Heracles threw himself on the huge animal's back. Though the lion tried to claw and bite him, Heracles locked his hands round its throat. Finally, he succeeded in choking the beast to death. One down means his first labor has been completed. Heracles stared at his prize. Well, the beast's dead, he said to himself, but the job's only half done. How do I get that tough hide off of him? Then Heracles spied the lion's claw. Would that do the job? He grabbed the claw and pierced the skin. It worked. Good thinking. So he's resourceful. When Heracles returned to Eurystheus' palace, he wore the lion's skin on his back, with the lion's head as a helmet, and its front paws draped over his chest. Heracles looked truly fierce. Page 36. At least Eurystheus thought so. He took one look at Heracles and ran in the other direction. Heracles roared with laughter. What's the matter, Prince? Never seen a lion man before? Eurystheus peeked from behind a door. His angry glare gave way to a cruel grin. The next labor was certain to stop Heracles' laughter. Get on with your work, the prince ordered. Kill me the Hydra. So you should make some marginal note here about when the second labor begins. Get on with your work, the prince ordered. Kill me the Hydra. A deadly assignment, Heracles thought. The Hydra had 9 snake-like heads. Take a look at the picture over here. And the middle one was immortal. This might be the middle one here. No one had ever been able to destroy the creature. It seemed impossible when every time you cut off a head, 2 more grew. So this paragraph explains the difficulty of the task. I would summarize this paragraph with how difficult the task is. Heracles set off on this labor with his nephew, Iolaus. They drove their chariot long and far until they reached the Hydra's swamp. Heracles slowly waded into the murky water. So it's a swamp. That should tell you what the water probably is like. Can you put your face down in the water and see what's in the water? Can you look through the water and see what's in the water? No, it's a swamp. You can't see through the water or into the water. Come, monster, he called. Here's another meal for you. The Hydra eagerly accepted the invitation. In one great spring, it leapt out of the water straight at the hero. Heracles backed away and shot arrow after arrow at the creature. But as each head dropped, 2 more rose up. The Hydra was becoming stronger, not weaker. Iolaus, my club! Get me my club! I think you can see club in the picture here. Iolaus grabbed the heavy club and dragged it to Heracles. So Iolaus can't even lift it, it's that big. So Heracles must be much stronger than Iolaus. Heracles lifted it easily into the air and swung at the creature. Faster and faster he whirled the club. He smashed the Hydra's head so quickly they barely had time to grow back before the next blow fell. But angry Hera was looking on. Remember, Hera hates him because he is the son of one of Zeus's mistresses, let's say. So on the side here, you should say Hera's going to do something. Hera, you could predict Hera's going to do something. But angry Hera was looking on. She was furious that once again Heracles seemed about to triumph. So she sent a crab to help the Hydra. Make a prediction here about how things will go for Heracles now that he's fighting both the Hydra and a crab. The sharp nip of that tiny creature was enough to distract Heracles. He glanced down and crushed the crab before it could attack again. But when he looked back at the Hydra, it was ready for him. In that short time, the creature had recovered. It now had hundreds of heads. So remember, we went from 9 to 100. Maybe put a 9 here with an arrow to 100 as a marginal note for this paragraph. 100 heads. Heracles stepped back. Iolaus, this club won't kill it. I need... Heracles thought quickly. Now here's an example of him needing to think quickly. I would underline that. He's thinking quickly. I need a fire. Sorry. I need a fire. Build me a fire, quick as you can. I'll be back. When Heracles returned, he carried a branding iron. He stuffed the iron deep into the embers and waited. So our irons today you would plug in. But an iron of that time, the iron they're talking about, is an iron to put a mark on an animal. To mark it, to say that it belongs to someone. To put your brand name, your name on the animal. So when Heracles returned, he carried a branding iron. He stuffed the iron deep into the embers, down into the fire, and waited. Nephew, I need your help. I'll cut off each head. As I do that, sear each neck with this red-hot iron. And that is exactly what they did. As Heracles chopped off a head, Iolaus seared the neck so the head could not grow back. The searing would be like sealing it off, closing off the wound. Finally, Heracles cut off the immortal head and buried it under a mountain. Remember, this is Heracles, very strong. He can lift a mountain and bury it under a mountain. What was left of the dead Hydra sank back into the dark swamp. So that's 2 jobs done. Second job completed. You would put that in the margin over here. Pause the video. Second job completed. Heracles' third labor. So I would put over here third labor. So after you've written your marginal note over here, the third labor, Artemis's sacred stag. Heracles' third labor was to fetch the stag sacred to the goddess Artemis. This stag was a beautiful snow white. It also had golden antlers and brass hoofs. Eurystheus knew Artemis loved this stag. He was counting on her to stop Heracles. So pause and think about this for a second. In the margin over here, you should think about what Heracles has against him now. You could put VS for versus. He's obviously against Hera. Hera's out to get him versus Hera. Now you can add to that Artemis. Hera, Artemis, and the stag are all against them. Eurystheus knew Artemis loved this stag. He was counting on her to stop Heracles. So pause the video and put a comment on the side. Heracles set off. For a whole year he chased the beautiful stag. Finally, they were both so exhausted they landed in a heap not far from each other. This is a whole year of chasing a deer. At that moment, Artemis appeared. With a grim look on her face, she drew her bow. She pointed the arrow straight at Heracles. Remember, she's a good shot with the bow and arrow. Predict over here what you think will happen. Pause the video and make a prediction. "How dare you cross me?" the goddess exclaimed. "I have only to release my fingers and you will die. So leave this place, Heracles. I will not allow anyone to chase my stag." Heracles knew the angry goddess had killed other mortals before. He would have to do something quickly if he didn't want to be added to the list. So make your prediction. What do you think will happen? Make a prediction in the margin. Pause the video, make your prediction. "Dear goddess, I never intended to hurt this pretty animal, but it's Eurystheus' wish to see him. As soon as that's done, I'll return your stag to this very spot. I swear it." Do you think the goddess will listen to him? Put your prediction in the margin. So he's being clever and he's being smart and maybe he's honest. Artemis looked into Heracles' heart and saw he was telling the truth. At last, she nodded. Oh, so I guess she's going to agree with him. How would you describe Heracles in the margin here? Maybe you could say Heracles is honest, and Artemis sees that. With a relieved smile, Heracles led the stag away. Then, true to his word, put over in the margin over here, honest, underline true to his word, honest, trustworthy. As soon as Prince Eurystheus saw the animal, Heracles returned it to the goddess. And that is the end of the third labor. Please mark your text for the fourth labor, starting here. The fourth labor was to capture the great boar of Erymanthus. This boar could outrun a horse, and it had long, sharp tusks protruding from its nose. Protruding, if they're tusks, and it says from its nose, that means they're coming out of its nose. Tusks, sort of like those of an elephant with tusks. Many a person had died on those tusks. Heracles chased the great boar over the plains, into the valleys, and through the mountains. At last he stopped. Fool! Heracles scolded himself. I may have the feet of a deer, but my brain is a turtle. I can never outrun this beast. Even stronger than that stag. Remember the stag, the Artemis' sacred stag from the previous labor? Something to slow it down is what I need. Write a prediction over here. What do you think Heracles will do to slow down the boar of Erymanthus? Just then Heracles spotted a mountaintop, white with snow. Those drifts will take the fire out of his hoofs, Heracles said with a weary grin. Weary meaning he's tired. But he has an idea. At once Heracles began driving the beast up the mountain as the hero guessed. The boar slowed when it reached the heavy snow. At last it bogged down or slowed down completely. Heracles closed in and threw some chains over the boar. Then he heaved the beast onto his shoulders. Another prize for my prince, the coward, he muttered. Then with a grin he set off for Mycenae. Eurystheus gritted his teeth when he saw Heracles return, but he was soon ready with another task. So that is the end of the fourth labor.